How has the question of Israel come to claim such a massive role in these people's psyche that it defines not only how they see the Middle East, but informs how they view every other struggle in the world?
Well, one thing is era of profound stupidity, in which, as I've said for many years, the adults have left the room. An example of the adults leaving the room is the idea that a truant schoolgirl from Sweden should dictate global climate policy. Never seemed to me a good idea.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are meeting me for the first time, my name is Clevy and it is so nice to meet you. We are back with another Douglas Murray interview, and now you guys, this is when he is on Israel's State of a Nation with Elion Levy. The video is like, I think, an hour long, but then again, you guys said to be a particular part that I should check out, and that's what we're about to do today. If you're ready, let's get started.
Seems to be some sort of episode happening in the West right now. The mass protest that we are seeing against Israel in favor of the Houthis, even as they fire at British targets and British ships. This total mobilization of parts of society against Israel that lead many people in Israel and around the Jewish world to see it as profoundly anti-Semitic, and not just a question of anti-Israel. And that's because what many people see is that anti-Semitism has historically been a tool through which failing societies, or societies that seek to deflect from their own failures, then mobilize themselves around this total ideology of opposition to the Jews. And that's how we find that even within the protests around the world, we have a clip here from one of the climate protests, that Israel seems to play a role in all these other different causes. Well, yes,
because
has nothing that it's really related to.
It does have something to do with it, because I mean, several reasons. One is the thing you say about the nature of anti-Semitism in societies that latch onto it. We all know that it's a very, very bad sign when a society lurches towards anti-Semitism for lots of reasons. One of them is for the society itself. It suggests that the society is dissolving and degrading into a feverish place. Vasily Grossman, one of my favorite writers, writes in The Middle of Life and Fate, his great epic of the 20th century, that on his 3 pages in the center of that 900-page masterpiece, he says, tell me what you accuse the Jews of, I'll tell you what you're guilty of. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And how's that playing out now, do you see?
Well, I mean, for a lot of people, it's working as no, the people you mentioned, like why the climate people.
Well, let's have a look. We actually have a little clip from Greta Thunberg, who's become one of the major Hamas fangirls recently. No climate justice on occupied land. I mean, what are they talking about? How has the question of Israel come to claim such a massive role in these people's psyche that it defines not only how they see the Middle East, but informs how they view every other struggle in the world?
Well, one thing is era of profound stupidity, in which, as I've said for many years, the adults have left the room. An example of the adults leaving the room is the idea that a truant schoolgirl from Sweden should dictate global climate policy. Never seemed to me a good idea. Always seemed to me she should spend more time in school. And the fact that so many politicians bowed to her views on, I mean, I said when she first emerged, people didn't like to criticize her when she first emerged, because they said, well, here's a schoolgirl who's autistic. I dare you to criticize her. I dare you. And I remember saying when she first emerged, like, what is this game? If I found a younger person who was more autistic and adored fossil fuels, and I put that person out there, would I win? Okay, it was always a trap, the Greta Thunberg thing. Always a trap. Now she's of age, she's an adult, so, and it's easier to criticize her, or it should be. It's always been a bad sign when things like that happen.
And yet I feel that it goes deeper than simply saying the world has always been mad, the world has always been stupid. Something is happening now.
But a very specific thing. There are times, if you read an account of a time in the Middle Ages where a young girl with blazing eyes came from a neighboring village and told you all you were going to burn, you go, well, I mean, that's a strange sort of thing to happen. Well, here we are in the 21st century with exactly the same phenomenon. It's a very odd thing, this whole devolving of expertise, And what these people end up with, there's an analogy from Japanese culture, which is that if you're a warrior for a great leader in medieval Japan, and if your leader died, you would wander around the land looking for another person to affix your loyalty to. That's what these people are. They believe the earth is burning, climate emergency, Palestinian emergency, this emergency. They're desperately searching for things to attach themselves to. And there's another point on this, which is that these people are doing politics by just every issue. You can always tell somebody hasn't thought deeply about anything when they have completely predictable views on every single issue. If you'd have asked me 5 years ago, how do you think Greta Thunberg will end up on the Palestinian question, I'd have said, she'll end up exactly like that, because she'll get her politics a la carte.
The fact that Israel has become this bugbear issue and part of the basket of what it means to be on the left, I understand. What I don't understand is the obsessive role that it seems to play within the Western imagination and among these people, and how it has become this organizing principle, if you will, of large parts of society. And I'm asking this because as I try as a spokesman to try to speak to foreign media and to try to influence public opinion, I'm simply at a loss to try to understand what this, psychotic moment is that seems to have overtaken such large parts of the Western world.
Well, you can tell one thing by the manner of communication, and this is, if I can say so, quite an important point. That manner of communication betrays something very interesting. That isn't argument, is it? What they're doing?
No.
Right. What is it?
It's very performative.
It's performative. What else?
It's performative. It seems impulsive, emotional. It seems to come from the gut.
I would say it certainly doesn't come from the brain. It's a different form of communication from, for instance, the one we're having at the moment. We are involved in a dialogue right now, and that's what most people I know, certainly everyone I respect, is able to engage in. If I just sat here and said, ceasefire now, or whatever, just over and over again, you say, yeah, you said it once, I got it. Why do these people think if they keep bludgeoning people with their stupid, predictable, ill-informed opinions, that we're going to suddenly say, now I get it, we should have a ceasefire? Or whatever it is.
I think they're trying to apply political pressure, and if you put enough pressure and mobilize enough people, then that's how change is made.
That's what they think. That's what they think. And they may be right. They may be right. They may be right that people can be influenced by that form of communication. I personally think it's the worst possible form of communication, because I don't think it is communication. It is a bludgeoning of people with by people who have a very, very limited understanding of these things. And that is, by the way, one other giveaway of it. If they understood anything about this, you wouldn't just keep saying the same thing over and over. You wouldn't decide every Saturday to just chant the same banality. If the reason they do it is because if you go underneath it, as you and I know from the people who go through the protests and ask any follow-on question, none of the marchers, almost none, would be able to answer a follow-on question. So they stick with the boring, ill-informed mantra, and they hope that they will persuade us by it. And I hope that it doesn't work.
Where do I even start from? Where do I begin? She strings two unrelated phrases into one sentence. No climate justice on occupied land. I am. What does that mean? What does that mean? No climate justice on occupied land. What does that mean? And you guys remember that we've been seeing a lot of this protest. And sometimes we've even seen interviews where people would go to these protest grounds and be asking people who are literally carrying placards, asking them, what is the protest all about? And you hear people say, oh, I don't know, or sorry, I can't say anything, or don't talk to me, or someone's like, yeah, I just joined, I feel like it's for a good cause. Some people don't even know why they're protesting. And honestly, it's now starting to look like, are they doing, this is the way people judge nowadays. The person who shouts the loudest is most likely to be right with their view. Like these things are literally happening. And there was one interview we saw, and someone was like, Israel will see this 20 minutes a day. Someone said, Gaza doesn't even have electricity to watch this your protest that is happening. Do you feel like this is the best route? Do you feel like this is the right way to go about, expressing your view or expressing your concern? Do you feel it's by lifting placards and going around, and even some of these things are, we saw the other day how it even led to, students going to lock themselves in building and the police literally had to break in. Do you think protesting is the right course of action? Do you think really, like, no climate justice on occupied land? What does that mean? Or is she just doing this to be popular? Yo, I have questions just like everyone else. Like, what exactly does it mean? And you see why I was saying it the other day. Let this thing just end. So if the other video, a lot of people, I'm seeing the comment section, what will it take for this to end? What will it take for this conflict to end? Because a lot has already happened. Because of this conflict, you're seeing all of this protests popping up here and there, and what will it take for this conflict to end? What exactly? Is it some negotiations? People were saying you don't negotiate because I was of the opinion. I was like, should negotiations happen? And some people in the comment section were telling me, no, Clevy, you don't negotiate with terrorists. And I'm like, so how do we go about it? How do you think this can be resolved? Because it has dragged on for a very long time. Let me know your thoughts. As usual, I would see you in the comment section. Be respectful, okay? And I'll see you right there.